Among the 6 Mapogo lions who carved their names into the history of Sabi Sands, none stood out more than the pair known as Mr. T and Kinky Tail. Together, they became infamous as the deadly duo, feared for their relentless aggression, their unbreakable bond, and their role as the enforcers of the coalition. While every Mapogo contributed to the coalition's dominance, it was Mr. T and Kinky Tail who defined its reputation for ruthlessness and raw power. Their reign was a story not only of survival, but of violence, loyalty, and the unyielding will to dominate. What made their rule so remarkable was the scale of their impact. They disrupted long-standing prides, reshaping the lion population of the Sabi Sands. Rivals were slaughtered, prides collapsed, and the brothers ruled by terror. Their actions were not just about survival. They altered the very dynamics of the ecosystem, leaving an enduring imprint on the history of the reserve.
Their ferocity in combat, their relentless killing of rivals and cubs, and their ability to rule as a pair rather than a larger coalition made them the most deadly lions duo ever. When the Mapogo Coalition split, Mr. T and Kinky Tail established themselves as an independent force in the Eastern Territories. Even though they were only 2 lions against rival groups that often numbered 4 to 6, they managed to hold large territories for several years. Their reputation alone spread fear. Neighboring prides and even other coalitions avoided their range, knowing that any confrontation could be fatal. They were exceptionally coordinated fighters. Together, they could overpower rivals larger in number, relying on brutal aggression and strategic teamwork. Mr. T was infamous for his violence, especially his tendency to kill cubs that weren't his own. This was not unusual for lions taking over a pride, but Mr. T's consistency and the sheer number of cubs he killed gave him a particularly fearsome image. Kinky Tail matched his brother's aggression in battle. Witnesses often noted that he fought to the death without retreat, which ultimately contributed to his demise when he was ambushed by the Majingalani coalition in 2010. Together, they were described as ruthless kings, or history's most brutal killers. Their ferocity not only maintained control over prides and territory, but also reshaped the balance of power in the Sabi Sands, as rival lions were killed, prides disrupted, and bloodlines erased. Years before the Great War for Dominance truly erupted, 2 of the Mapogo brothers, Mr. T and Kinky Tail, ambushed and killed the youngest member of the Majingalani coalition. This moment shaped the destiny of both coalitions and set the stage for the legendary conflict that followed. Around 2008, the Majingalani males were still in their youth. 5 in numbers, they emerged from the Kruger National Park, lean and untested, seeking territory within the Sabi Sands. They were inexperienced compared to the Mapogos, who at that time ruled vast stretches of land and were feared for their violence. Mr. T and Kinky Tail, in particular, had already built reputations as ruthless enforcers of Mapogo dominance. Their patrols were relentless, and they had no hesitation in killing rivals or slaughtering cubs to eliminate future threats. When the Majingalani strayed too close, they caught the attention of the Mapogos. The veterans Mapogo brothers sensed something in the air, and the sight of 5 intruding males was a direct challenge to their supremacy. The encounter was swift and decisive. During the chaos of movement, one of the Majingalani males became separated from his 4 brothers. This was a fatal mistake. Lions live and survive by coalition strength, and to be isolated in the presence of Mr. T and Kinky Tail was to be marked for death. The 2 Mapogos descended on him with terrifying efficiency. Known for his savage temper, Mr. T attacked with ferocious power, while Kinky Tail, his closest brother and partner, cut off his escape route. The young Majingalani was overwhelmed in moments. Outnumbered, inexperienced, and without support, he stood no chance. The ambush ended in a brutal killing, his body left as a stark warning to all who would dare trespass on Mapogo land. The death of the 5th Majingalani at the claws of Mr. T and Kinky Tail was a brutal introduction to the unforgiving politics of lions in the Sabi sands. For the 4 survivors, it was a lesson written in blood. Survival depended on unity. Over the following years, the Majingalani Coalition matured into a disciplined and formidable force, determined never to repeat the mistakes of their youth. In time, they would return to the lands of the Mapogos, not as frightened youngsters, but as avengers of their fallen brother. By 2010, the Majingalani were in their prime. Strong, confident, and bound by a bond forged through loss, they began pressing into Mapogo territory. Where Mr. T and Kinky Tail often operated recklessly, splitting from their brothers, the Majingalani always fought as one. It was this discipline that tipped the scales when the inevitable confrontation came. A symbolic beginning. The killing of the 5th Majingalani by Mr. T and Kinky Tail was more than a single act of dominance. It was the first blood in a rivalry that would define an era. For the Mapogos, it was a display of supremacy, a warning to all challengers. For the Majingalanis, it was a formative lesson, the price of survival in a world ruled by strength and brutality. History remembers the Mapogos as the kings of violence, and the Majingalanis as the coalition that ultimately toppled them. Yet the saga began with this ambush, when 2 fearsome brothers, Mr. T and Kinky Tail, struck down the youngest Majingalani and unknowingly set the stage for their own eventual downfall. Unlike their other brothers, who often split off to patrol different parts of their empire, Mr. T and Kinky Tail were rarely apart. They roamed the eastern territories together, holding large stretches of land with just the 2 of them. This partnership was more than convenience. It was a brotherhood forged in unity. They trusted each other completely, and their ability to fight side by side made them an extraordinarily dangerous force. In the harsh world of lions, where betrayal and weakness often mean death, the bond of the deadly duo was unshakable. The fighting spirit of the deadly duo was unmatched. While most lions avoided battles they could not win, Mr. T and Kinky Tail were known to confront overwhelming odds with defiance. The most famous example occurred in June 2010, when the Majingalani Coalition ambushed Kinky Tail. Mr. T and Kinky Tail chased 4 Majingalani males. Mr. T was somehow separated, while Kinky Tail was thinking that Mr. T was behind him, and he began an attack all by himself, not realizing his brother Mr. T was not there. Outnumbered 4-1, Kinky Tail fought with such ferocity that he held his ground until Mr. T arrived, charging into the fray to defend his brother. He was sadly killed and eaten alive. When Mr. T arrived, it was too late, since Kinky Tail was already paralyzed and would have died from his injuries, forcing Mr. T to run for his life, leaving Kinky Tail behind, where the 4 Majingalani males would eat him alive. For the Majingalanis, the death of Kinky Tail was more than a victory. It was justice served. The brother who had helped kill their 5th member was gone, his end mirroring the fate he had once delivered. The ruthlessness of Mr. T and Kinky Tail ensured that the Mapojos would never be forgotten. Their bond and their violence defined an era of lion dominance rarely seen before or since. Kinky Tail's death marked the beginning of the coalition's decline, and Mr. T's final stand as a lone king sealed his place in legend. More than any of their brothers, the deadly duo demonstrated that lion supremacy is built not only on strength, but on fear, unity, and the will to fight against impossible odds. Mr. T and Kinky Tail were more than just lions. They were symbols of untamed ferocity and brotherhood in its purest form. Their unmatched aggression, fearless battles, and unbreakable bond made them the most feared lions of their generation. While the Mapogo Coalition as a whole left behind an enduring legacy, it was the deadly duo who gave that legacy its edge. They remain remembered not just as rulers, but as warriors who defined dominance with blood and fire. These brothers lived by the sword, died by the sword,